How you doing, y'all? Matt Massa Beers here. Yes, I'm here with a beer review. Yeah, it's a beer review. This beer. That beer. Vincent. This is a Buried Acorn Brewing collab. So Buried Acorn Brewing, they sent off a box of beer. Sean was like, hey, dig the show. I want to send off some beers, and they sent a bunch of stuff off. This is the first one of their kind of fruited, sour, mixed firm, whatever you want to call it, kind of beers. It's 8.6% beer, but it's a hybrid. They call this a beer wine hybrid. It is a collaboration with Heron Hill Winery. It's a barrel-aged dark sour, a single varietal beer wine hybrid collaboration. Yeah, traditionally different. It says here. That's all you get info-wise on here. There's a little kind of little stamp there, and I'm not sure what that stamp means. Buried Acorn. Means anything, let us know. And you're basically talking about a dark sour wine hybrid. So what does that mean, wine hybrid? Is it a blend? Is it a beer and wine blend? Is it okay, we brewed a dark sour and put it in one of that brewery's barrels? Is it a still beer? It could be a bunch of different things, to be perfectly honest with you. I'm going with the beer that was, let's see, barrel-aged dark sour. So it's probably just barrel-aged one of those beers. Definitely not a still beer. I will put it that way. That thing hissed and popped like it was angry at the world. Yeah. See if we can get you guys a good look. It definitely has kind of like Merlot vibes to it, with the way it's kind of coming off kind of coloration-wise. Label, it's very slick. You know, that kind of tapered label down. Very nice kind of linen-like kind of label on it. Very simple. Nothing too... What's the word I want to use? Audacious, maybe? At the same time, it's sexy. Venice notes out the wazoo, just wafting into my face hole. And then, I mean, I can't even... You probably can see that on camera, right? Like the head has a huge reddish hue to it. So my guess is this is a dark sour. Probably has a fruit addition, but then went in some dark Merlot level, kind of just rich, kind of super musty barrel. That's my kind of guess of what they did on this beer. It definitely looks the part of a fruited beer. That's where I would go if I drank this blind, based off the color of the head, that almost strawberry quick, like pinkishness to the head. I would go, okay, there's got to be a fruit beer. There's got to be something going on. Raspberries, got to be grapes, got to be, you know, something going on. Nose. I mean, it's. I think it's going to come off relatively tart, really dry and vinous. So you're getting this kind of lactic / acidic tartness in the nose. You can tell there's something punchy to this. There's something with a little bit of chutzpah to this. Why is this late? I just try to... This is like an ongoing saga, me and my lights. If I put my hands like this, I think that's when it freaks out. I don't know. Every now and then my ISO, my new camera freaks out. I should be able to lock it, but I haven't figured out how to do that in a way that I like how the video comes out, so you guys get to deal with it until that happens. Literally, I spent 20 minutes before this video trying to figure it out. Anyway, yeah, it looks like it has a little chutzpah to it, a little bit of aggressiveness to it. Big reddish fruits, raspberry. Tart raspberry, not that raspberry that you eat that's kind of sweet. It's the one that's super, super, super tart. So a very big vinous characteristic also that's kind of the same thing. Sweetness to it, a little bit of Jolly Rancher vibes, but on a very kind of unsweetened kind of aspect. Very wine-like. It is very wine-like. So that wine, beer, sour / hybrid is very much on the nose. So let's dive in. Cheers. It's tart. It's very, very, very tart. Tart and dry. Very wine-like. I will be the first person sitting here and admit I know next to nothing about wine. Now, there's grapes involved. There's barrels. Outside that, whoa, this is giving me heartburn. It's definitely acidic. I don't know much, so I can't speak intelligently about wine and what's good and bad about it. All I know is I'm not a big wine fan. for kind of the reasons the way this beer is kind of coming off. Extremely dry, extremely, for me, extremely kind of acidic. In the sense that it's like just dry, like almost like, think like if you drank like a Coca-Cola, if you're not a big wine drinker, I'm trying to make an analogy here, drink like a can of Coke, put no sugar in it. It kind of has that thing going on. It's like just this carbonic, and there's no carbonic acid in it, but it has that kind of effect where it just dries my mouth out completely, where like the roof of my mouth is completely dry right now. It's tart and acidic, super tart, to the point where, I don't mean this as my vocabulary when it comes to wine, because these are all wine notes that I'm pretty much getting here. My vocabulary in that area is so minimal. I have a hard time articulating what I'm tasting. But, and this is something that comes off in wine for me, and that's why I'm attributing to this beer. It tastes like after I accidentally swallowed a mouthful of pool water. That sounds horrible. But whenever I, like, if you ever swim in a pool, for me at least, I should say me, when I swim in the pool, if I accidentally, like, gulp down, like, some chlorinated water, I get in the back of my nose, in the back of my nasal passage, this kind of, I would associate it with like an ethanol alcohol, but the wine version of that, I get that in here. So it's not something that's overly pleasant for me. I'll tell you this, mouthfeel carbonation, fantastic. It was a big, huge, more like tart raspberry. I'll stick with that. Tart raspberry kind of vibes come from this more than a wine grape. There's a huge Venice note to it, but it really does lead me down like a tart raspberry kind of road. Listen, this is just, I keep getting that chlorine water thing. So one thing I've actually talked about multiple times on this channel, it's one of the reasons why I don't rate beer, is that there's a huge difference between a beer that doesn't work for me and a bad beer. You know, that's a very big distinction. A lot of people fail to make the distinction, the connection between those two. You know, there can be a beer that I just really, really just don't like. It's not made well. You know, like just off flavors, made badly. Then there's a beer, this beer, which is just not really for me. But it's not made badly. I could see some people really, 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 really digging on it. I'm just not that person. So there's that distinction to where I know for a fact, over all the beers that I've had, over the many, many, many years, that I just am like, this isn't for me. And I know people are like, man, you just don't, they look at me and just go, you just don't get it. I fully am willing to admit I don't get it, because I just don't. You know, it's just not for me, and that's where this beer kind of lands. It's kind of like one of those things when you deal with sour beers, and I'm not talking sour IPA, I'm not talking fruit sour explosion cans, I'm talking like mixed firm soury stuff. Old school stuff, traditional stuff. Relatively traditional stuff. You know, there's a bunch of different schools you land in. But if you brass tacks it, it comes down to sweet versus acidic. You know, you're talking about, you want to go old school goose, you want to go old school kind of lambic. You're not getting like really challengingly acidic. Yeah, obviously, like exceptions to the rule for everything. But then you get to the Cascade, or even like the side project, the kind of sour of the world. Then you start talking about something that's a bit more caustic, a little bit more challenging, a little bit more enamel ripping. This beer has more to do with those beers than it does the kind of, you know, the OG Cantillons of the world. Not that they haven't made beer like this, but I'm saying that kind of more kind of, let's work on that sweet end of the spectrum, grain end of the spectrum, as opposed to super acidic tartness kind of end of the spectrum. And that's where this one leans a little bit more to, and it's just not my bag. You know, I'm the other end, you know. Yeah, it's weird when you get these beers because you want to review them with a peace in mind of, you know, people, this is their life work, so the last thing you want to be like, fuck this beer. And I don't say fuck this beer, I'm actually going to drink this whole thing because I want to see where it goes. But it's also like, there's a beer of this ilk, of this kind of backbone, is got to be super duper out of this world. Kind of, not just, I was going to say special, but it has to be just different for me to really go gaga for, and I'm just not going to find it here. I appreciate what I'm tasting. I think it's fun. I'm going to explore it some more. I'm going to drink it and see where it kind of takes me. But it's one of those things where, you know, if I go old school and to review things, it's one of the better ones. I personally had no of sour stuff, no, but could I see somebody being like, yeah, this is absolutely fantastic without a doubt. It's very much more, if you're a wine drinker, I think this beer resonates a lot more with you, let's put it that way. And I'm just not one of those people. Sean, if you watch this, let me know what this beer is all about, how it was made. You know, I'm assuming it's just a sour beer that was put in a super musty, wet wine barrel. Tell me if I'm wrong, or if anybody else out there knows. If you've had this, let me know what you thought. If you've had Berry Acorns mixed firm stuff or anything in general, you're going to see a bunch of their stuff down the pipeline because I got a bunch of stuff come in. Let me know. There I go. Hopefully you guys enjoyed our review. I'll see you next time. Cheers, y'all.